repair. If it's a thermostat in the heating and air conditioning, a very minor repair. In fact, we don't even charge the full hour. We'll charge possibly just a half hour. In the plumbing industry, maybe a stoppage. We'll charge $49. It's a loss. We can't do a stoppage for $49. But you see, really, no jobs end up that way, because not only do you do a stoppage, but then you have the chemicals, then you have the service agreement, and possibly a P-trap could be soft. And if your technicians are trained properly and you don't push them as hard as you've been pushing them, they have the time to travel through the home or the business and make sure everything is up to snuff, okay? So the manual is designed that way. Also, the terminology. We don't like to have name brands. We had name brands at one time, but the problem with name brands is that they can go to the home center. So we subscribe to the SEER system, which they were very successful at, the good, better, best. It's a premier, standard, or budget. Which do you want? Now, I could ask you in this room, which is a better furnace? Carrier, Rheem, Day and Night, Lennox, Comfort Maker. Which is a better one? Do you know? Well, you're professionals. You should know. Train. You think Train. No, he's shaking his head. He probably thinks what? Carrier? They're all the same. Well, how do we know? Here we are, a room full of professionals, and we can't even agree. We can talk about the same thing in plumbing. What's better? Moen, Wolverine Brass, Delta, Grohe. Which is a better faucet? I don't know. One says Grohe, one says Moen, one says different. Now, can you imagine a consumer being challenged with those choices? Which is a better faucet? I don't know. Which is a better furnace? I don't know. So what you do is you take what you believe to be the better one and group them. This is our premier system. This is our standard system, and this is our budget system. People typically will not buy a budget system if it's presented that way. They will buy either a standard or premier because this is their castle. Even a business cannot afford to buy the cheapy stuff. They can't. It might go bad on them. So we try to, in this book, incorporate that. We've also changed the wording around. We've talked about some of the terminology that doesn't make sense. Angle stops. What's an angle and a stop? Doesn't make sense. It's an emergency water shutoff. Can you imagine changing somebody's fuse for 75 or 100 bucks? Instead, we change somebody's circuit protector. So when they go to the home center and ask the salesman, hey, do you have any circuit protectors? No, you got to go to your local HVAC guy and get it. Meanwhile, they got a rack full of fuses there. Question?
You say you sell mostly standard and premier faucets.
Yes, we sell mostly standard and premier faucets, yes.
You stock the budget.
But we stock the budget. Now, the budget's there for the landlord-tenant situation, or if you get the El Cheapo customer that's selling the house tomorrow, no matter what, they won't spend the money. Yeah, I believe you need to carry that line, but we minimize that line. For instance, do you stock a plastic P-trap and a chrome one in your truck? No, you stock only one type? Okay. Sometimes you have a certain situation where you might need that cheapy product. And also, plastic is becoming well-known, and it's hard to change a plastic trap with a chrome one when it's existing plastic, obviously. Now, we, excuse me, we changed the name of our pricing system from the flat rate manual system to the menu pricing system. The reason we did that is because we believe if it's presented as a menu price, the customer can easily identify with it rather than a flat rate. The word flat rate means that no matter what, it's going to be this amount of money. No, this is a menu. You're able to pick and choose what you want. And it really is a menu because we have several different choices, don't we? We have several different products, several different choices. Don't add too many products that you don't have available on your service truck, because then you're going to go back and have to chase those down. And remember, what we have been preaching is never leave the customer alone. Either get the item delivered or make arrangements to have it shipped there either via a taxi cab or if you have a pickup truck that one of your warehouse people can do that. But never leave the customer alone. So I recommend that you don't put a lot of items in your book that are not available to you. Switching to flat rate pricing. How do you switch to flat rate pricing? Well, the transition is actually very, very easy. All you have to do is say, yes, I want it. Then we ask you lots of questions, such as, what do you think your hourly rate's going to be? Now, your hourly rate is based upon looking at all of your overhead and your desired net profit, okay? And establishing that. You take all of your overhead, divide it into your productive hours that you currently have. And those of you that need help with that, we'll be happy to help you after in establishing or helping you establish your hourly rate. Once you establish your hourly rate, give us that. We need to know what your sales tax is. Is it on tax only on materials? Is it tax on labor? Is it on the full amount, and so forth? We need to know how you would like to mark up your materials. Would you like to do it at cost divided by a factor? Would you like to do it at cost times a multiplier? Would you like to use a sliding scale? If it costs between $0 and $5, you sell it for 500% markup and so forth. Or would you like to use a standard markup, which is a markup that's being used around the country? Then what we do is we provide you with a startup kit. And in that kit, you have instructions on how to get onto the system, how to make changes to every task. And we recommend that you look at every single task. If a motor replacement says an hour and a half, and you say, oh, no, we can do those in an hour, change it to an hour. If you say, no, we can't do them in an hour and a half, you got to do them in 2, change it to 2 hours. We really don't care. This has to be customized to your company. Certain areas you're going to be driving a lot further, so the primary task may want to have more time added to it. Maybe you would like to have a tool account set up, educational account set up. Maybe you want to have a miscellaneous account set up. We'll be happy to incorporate those. You go through the startup kit. You can change the hourly rate again, change the times, do whatever you would like to do. We also encourage you on certain items that are flat rated, such as stoppages, service agreements that are flat rated. They're not based on an hourly rate. We would like to get all those prices from you. What are you going to charge for a service agreement, for plumbing, for heating, for air conditioning, for electrical? What are you going to charge for a kitchen sink stoppage and a mainline stoppage? Because those are flat rated items. So we ask you for those. Then send the book back. We will enter the information in our computers. We will give you a preliminary copy so that you could say, okay, this looks good, but go ahead and add this, and change that and that. Okay, no problem. We're happy to do that. And then once you say everything's fine, you can do a nod, send us a fax, or send it back. Then we print out the final manuals for you. And you're going to get them in a nice box with instructions on how to implement them into your company. Now, when you get the manuals, if there's anything wrong with them, call us immediately. We'll be more than happy to send out changes, different pages, and if you would like us to, we'll send out brand new manuals. We don't care. I don't care how much paper, how much toner we burn through. I don't care how much time we go through. All I want is for it to be perfect for you, and I want it to be perfect. Don't try to flat rate 100% of what you're doing the first go-around, because you'll never get there. Try to work at an 80% level. Okay, so it's not exact. You'll change it on the renewal, or you'll change it if it really bothers you later on. When you get the box, let your techs know in advance that we're switching to flat rate. We don't know when, hopefully soon, and it's really exciting. Don't get into too much of the details, but we're going to be using a menu pricing system. It's going to be great, guys. You'll be able to walk in with the menu, and you'll be able to show the customer the prices. Well, how does that affect me? No, it actually will be wonderful for you, because you won't have to get in a challenge with the customer every time you finish the invoice as to how long you were there, or what's the price, and so forth. They'll know the price up front. Great. Now, meeting day. Hold a meeting with your techs. Bring the books out. Let them hold it. Make sure they don't flip pages. You start on page number 1, which in this case in plumbing would be appliance hookup. Guys, look through this page. Do you have any questions? All right, let's flip to page 2 and flip to page 3 and so forth until they completely understand how it works. Now, the first day, when they have these manuals, they don't have to use it. Just let them try to use it where they can. Let them become accustomed to the pricing, because they don't want to flop in front of the customer. Okay? And give them about a week's worth of time where it's just okay, you don't have to, because after a week, guys, we're going to now request that you really bring the books in and really start using it, okay? Let us know how that goes. After 2 weeks, it's going to get a little bit more stringent, because after a month's time, that's it, guys. We are on the system using task numbers, and it is the book. If the task is not in the book, you will call the office to get a price. You will not pull a price down from the sky. We will help you create that price. And also, have sheets available to add those tasks that you feel should be added to the manual, because you're going to have a lot of things that are going to come up, various situations. You either want them in the book, or maybe you don't because they're rare occasions. Don't put the rare occasions in the book. Don't make the book too fat because it gets too confusing. Don't put 99 motors in the book when 12 will handle most of what you do. If they can't find a certain repair, use something that's close, and then discuss it with the owner or manager later. Don't flop in front of the customer, okay? You have to know what you're doing and how you're charging. We also include a premium price list in the back. That's used for nights, weekends, or if you get a customer that's really tough. Lay it on. We also have ways for you never to get stuck, and it's called the miscellaneous charges. Having to go chase a part down, having an unusual situation, having to have 2 people on the job, having to rent equipment, all kinds of unusual situations. You're never really stuck in the book. You can always get out. Is everything flat rateable? Absolutely. If the item is inside the wall, Mrs. Jones, I'm going to charge you $75 for me to go ahead and take this wall down and to get to the problem. Once I get to the problem, then I'll be able to quote you a flat rate price to have it repaired. So everything is flat rateable. Now, certain items you don't know until you diagnose it. And so it's going to be X amount for the diagnosis, or it'll be X amount per hour for the diagnosis. Try not to use an hourly rate. You really should not ever quote an hourly rate. When a customer calls you and says, what's the price of this, price of that? Gee, Mrs. Jones, we use a menu pricing system, and all the prices come from a price service. I really don't know. Why don't we have our tech come out and take a look at it, and he'll let you know what the price will be. And by the way, we charge by the job, not by the hour, which saves you money. Always add that part. When you convert to flat rate pricing, send a letter off to your customers. Dear Mrs. Jones, we now are proud to let you know about a whole new way of charging. It's using a menu price system. No longer will you have to pay for someone's inexperience, or if the job takes longer, or if we have to put more parts in. You're going to know a special price up front. And by the way, because you have been a dear customer of ours for so many years, we're going to go ahead and give you the value rate pricing the very next time you call us. Be sure you ask about our brand new plan service agreement. We can come by once a year, take a look at your system, and safety test it. And by the way, Mrs. Jones, because you've been a customer for so long, we're going to go ahead and give you one for free for this year. Please call this number before this date, and we'll go ahead and honor that. And it's up to you. Come up with your own marketing letters. Get buttons made, Operation Flat Rate. Be very promotional. Your technicians will love you for this. They will love you for this. We have a question here.
Figured out a way to flat rate excavation yet?
Excavation? Digging, we have some of it, and it's based upon whether you hit hard dirt, because if you hit hard dirt, then we add a bunch of money to it. If you go over so many feet, we add another bunch of money to it. If you have a retaining wall, or if you hit rock, there's add-ons. So you're never really stuck. So you can quote, you're talking about replacement of a water line, sewer line? Yeah, no problem.
As far as using lineage or diameter?
Yeah, you can charge it per depth and per foot. I believe what we have figured in is, let's say, a 20-foot minimum, which is going to cost you X amount of dollars. And if we have to go deeper, because you can't see in the ground, right? It's going to cost X amount more. If we hit rocks, it's more. If the dirt's hard, it's more. If you want us to put the grass back, it's more. And so that's the beauty of the add-on business. You try to keep the primary task as low as possible. That gets you into the front door. Everything is built on in the add-ons. Now that's how a technician can make money, and that's how the company makes money. Is, look, the primary task is sold over the phone already, right? They called in because they had that problem. The real challenge is doing the add-on business. And that's an area that you should be rewarding your technicians, is every time they do an add-on, that's where you should be paying them. Now we have all kinds of contests here, as you've witnessed. The tech that does the most add-ons in a week, a month, and so forth. There's trips to Hawaii and so forth. That's a good place for you to reward your employees, is in the add-on area. All right. Do you have to give a breakdown to a customer? Absolutely not. So the customer says to you, and you're going to have this happen over and over, hey, I'd like to get a breakdown of what you charged me. Okay, All you're required to do is to give the customer a breakdown of the materials you've installed. That's contractor's law. That's all you have to do. Nowhere does it ever say that you have to show them the actual material and the cost and the retail and so forth. Absolutely not. We are contractors. We are licensed to give a consumer or a business owner a contract to have the work performed. So when they ask you, I'd like to get a breakdown, gee, I wish I had one. Well, you must have a breakdown. Well, we subscribe to this national, flat rate system, and they provide us with these discounted prices. And well, you must have one at the office. I'm sure the office has a breakdown of some sort. Let them call the office and deal with the manager. Now, the manager needs to find out what it is that happened because the customer's complaining, not because of price, because something else. They didn't perceive they got full value for what they paid. And if it gets even further along, the manager can send the material list. A lot of customers go away at that point and they just, okay, whatever, it's fine. I'm kind of happy. Try to satisfy them. If they're not satisfied and they call back and say, nope, I got to have a breakdown. Mrs. Jones, gee, I wish I had a breakdown available for you. It's in our computers and I really don't know exactly what it costs. You must know what it costs. Mrs. Jones, what's really the problem here? What happened? And she'll then tell you, look, he was rude, he tracked mud in my home, he broke this, broke that. And that's really the complaint. It's not the price. Now, if the customer says, well, I found it cheaper somewhere else, Mrs. Jones, you can always find it cheaper somewhere else. There's not one thing today that I couldn't buy, that I couldn't find cheaper somewhere else. Were you happy with the service? Did we do a good job? Did we show up on time? Was my man courteous? You do realize we have this guarantee and so forth? And that's how you have to work with it. Don't give your customer a breakdown. If you give them a breakdown, just brace yourself because you are going to have a problem. I can attest to that. Don't do it. As hard as you get squeezed, don't do it. Everybody is not going to be a lover of flat rate. Not everybody. So you're going to create your own little niche market. Small communities, I know a lot of you are in small areas. You'll have to see how it goes. You'll have to sample it and check it out and get good at it. Eventually, I believe in the next few years that pretty much the industry is going to be all flat rated using some kind of a manual system. Should you have your competitors on the same system? Absolutely yes. Should they come through this seminar? Absolutely yes. Because what you want is good competitors. What's killing you out there is those that are charging less than you, who don't know their costs, who don't flat rate, or flat rate the old way where it's based upon, how easy you look. And that's not fair. Going to court, no problem. Be proud of going to court and standing up. But remember what I say about going to court. Avoid court. Don't go to court. Give the customer back anything they want, okay? You don't want to be before a judge where 30 people are watching, David against Goliath, because even though you may win in court, you've really lost. So don't go to court. But if you have to and it's based on a principal situation, bring the book with you. Question?
So you're not qualified to do this work, or?
Insurance companies are really tough. They need a breakdown, and you may have to provide them a breakdown. Insurance companies, what they really want to know, if you're talking about maybe a plumbing job, they want to know the actual cost of the repair itself, because see, they don't pay for the cost of the repair. They pay to get to the problem to cover up the problem. And so you may want to just say that it only costs, $89.20-something or whatever it comes to go ahead and fix the problem. Now, if they really want a breakdown, it's a situation that you're going to have to deal with. We don't deal with many property management companies because they still would love to have it on a time and material. Not only do they want time and material, but they want it at $25 an hour time and material. And sorry, we can't do that. So you're probably not going to be doing work for certain people anymore. And you may be wondering, well, I'm going to lose, half my business. No, you're not. You're going to pick up all the other ones. All that good business that you weren't getting is now going to be yours. So flat rate pricing really does separate those bad customers from those good customers. Most people today want to be charged on a flat rate. They want to know what it's going to cost up front. They don't mind paying more for that knowledge. I'm sorry?
Who wants bad customers to begin with?
Who wants bad customers to begin with? You can't build a company based on having bad customers, those that are looking for the cheapest bargain. That's why there are Nordstroms of the world, and that's why they have the discount warehouses. Now, sometimes we shop in both of them, but when it's time for service, boy, do we want service. And you know where we head to. We certainly don't go to the concrete floored warehouse, do we? No. You go to the beautifully carpeted where there's sales and there's a guarantee behind it. And typically in people's homes, that's the kind of service that people request. They want great service. Any other questions? Yes, question.
What do you say when the customer asks the tech whether or not they're on a...
The question is, what do you say when a homeowner asks the technician, are you being paid on a commission? Is it anybody's business how you're being paid? I mean, really, why would a homeowner ask that? And if they do ask it, no. Because really, they're being paid, if you are paying them on the commission, they're really being paid that guarantee. That's the guarantee. And they may want to say, well, I have incentives, but not really commission, I'm incentively paid. But if they don't do the work, they don't get paid. So I don't know, it's not strictly commission, there is a guarantee. I wouldn't answer that question.
When you cut out the wall, do you quote them on repairing the wall?
The question is, when you cut out the wall, do we quote them on repairing the wall? If your company has the ability to repair a wall, be careful, because now you're in somebody else's trade called drywall patch repair or stucco repair. And a lot of times we don't do that good of a job because that's not our expertise. Yes, if we can do it, we will. Now, if you have an arrangement set up with other subcontractors, stick it right there in your book. It costs X amount per hole, and I believe in our manual we do offer you at $75 to patch a 3x3 hole, up to a 3x3 hole. Anything above that, call the office. Any other questions? Question?
Does your price, or does your menu pricing address senior discounts?
Does the menu price system address senior citizen discounts? There are numerous ways to address senior citizens discounts. One is by just offering the value rate column to senior citizens and also to commercial accounts or to old customers or to your family members. Let me talk to you a moment about family members and friends. That's one of the biggest challenges out there, isn't it? Well, we finally have a way of showing our family and friends that they're going to get the special value rate price without having to have a service agreement. Isn't it wonderful to have a basis for once? Another way to handle a senior citizen is by giving them a free service agreement. Now, you can go ahead and discount the flat rate price 10%. There's lots of ways of doing it. But at least you have it in a book where it's established. You know how wonderful it is to finally have control of your prices, the right price, the right selling price, based upon your overhead and so forth? You know what it's like to know that every job you do, you're making money? Finally, there's something available. Finally. Paul?
Yes.
You've been on our system now for 2 years.
Right.
How big of a company are you?
3
And
trucks, 30 years.
3 trucks, 30 years. Congratulations. And you've now switched, it was about 2 years ago you switched over. Why don't you share with the group here what happened?
Okay.
The fear in the beginning.
All right. The fear that the service techs had in the beginning was pretty much overcome when they went out in the field and found out the customers liked it. That was the biggest thing. It was taking the book and going through it, and like Maurice explained, showing them how it works. My understanding at the time of how it worked, because it was new to me as well, and going through it page by page by page. And there were some things that they had questions about. There were some things that they thought could be done in less time. But the biggest fear was, what if I take it out to the customer and the customer says, that's way too much money, I'm not paying that, what do I do? That was their biggest concern. Once they got it out in the field and they showed the customer and the customer says, that seems like a lot, and they said, yes, but that's what we have to charge, they didn't have a problem with it anymore, because the customer has always wanted to know what it's going to cost before you start the job. And until we had this vehicle to do that, we could never do it. We'd give them some kind of an answer of, it's about this many hours, and we usually use this kind of parts, and it's usually this much per hour. So they're putting this all together in their mind, and they're coming up with their own flat rate price based on something that you're giving them a wild guess on. And the guys, once they were out in the field and they found out the customers liked it, there was not a problem.
How long did that process take to get them comfortable with it?
2 weeks, max.
2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
How about the first day? Were you getting results, positive results the first day?
first day, some,
Yeah.
and surprisingly, it was from the tech that I thought we were going to have the most trouble with.
Good point.
He Once he got out in the field and he had a vehicle to not look like a dummy if they questioned his price, I'll tell you what, he just took to it. And he's the one, comical thing that happened about the second month into it. He gave the lady a flat rate price, and she agreed to it. She signed the paperwork, everything was done right. Got to collecting the check, and she said, well, I'm not paying that much. She says, lady, this isn't the price is right. This is how much it is. I mean, that's really, that's the truth. That's the way it is. They agreed to it, that's how much it was going to be, and the lady paid, and that, it works.
How much more per hour have you increased your hourly rate?
From what, before
Yes,
flat rate?
before flat rate.
Doubled it.
You doubled your hourly rate.
And part of that is because I realized through going through Frank Blau seminars and understanding my business more, what it cost me to run the business I couldn't do at what I used to charge people. And what I had to get out of the business to make it worth doing the business, I couldn't do hourly, because nobody's going to pay me the amount of money it's going to cost me to make a profit and cover my expenses on an hourly basis. It's just not going to work.
Mind we ask you what you're charging per hour?
It's 85 right now. It's going to be 95 in about 2 months, because I'm going to have another book printed. But I think the biggest advantage, and something that I'd wanted to share, I was going to mention it anyway. Used to be we'd have an argument with the customer after the job was done. You'd say, well, here I said it was going to be 150. It actually ended up being 200 because I had to do this and this. Sometimes the older customers would say, okay, we trust you. We know you're not trying to rip us off. Newer customers would say, hey, you told me 150. It's 200. I'm paying you 150. And then you'd have to try to argue the point, get it down to where you're losing the least amount of money. And that's the biggest difference. If there's going to be a discussion, and sometimes there are discussions, that's an awful lot of money for that. We can't afford that. I want to have that discussion up front. I want to have it before we get the job done. I've paid the guy for his labor. I've paid for the materials that were put in, and now we have to argue that point down. And my tech is not the guy I want arguing down a price for me. I mean, that's not his money. He's going to get his money whether he agrees to an agreeable price or not. So if there's a discussion, I want that discussion up front, and we don't have that many discussions. We really don't.
Any questions?
What about how long did it take your administrative people to transition? In other words, the different pay system?
Well, along with this, we had the invoices. I mean,
Why don't you repeat the question so everybody can hear it?
All right. How long did it take to implement this in the office with the administrative people? And with the administrative people, it's my mom, my daughter, and myself. So we're not talking about, we don't have a Mayo marketing system yet. But no, it took very little time because we had the invoice that was already designed for flat rate pricing. You got to have all the pieces parts to make it work. Just having the book without having a proper invoice, I think, is going to make it harder. I'm not saying it can't do it that way, but I think you have to have the invoice that's designed for flat rate pricing. But as far as in the office, the only thing we had a transition, and we're still in the process of it even after 2 years, is getting the guys to write down the task number and comparing that with their copy of the materials that were included in that task. Now, if we're finally getting them to where they just write the task number down, and if they added 2 extra half-inch elbows, they put 2 half-inch elbows. Prior to that, we had a lot of data processing of entering all the material that was actually used, and then adjusting our inventory. That's what took the most time. But now that we're getting to where we're doing the task, it's just a lot simpler. So not much trouble at all, to answer your question, sure.
When you give the customer the price out of the book, and then after you negotiate or they say it's too much or whatever, and they agree to it, then do they write the invoice and have them sign it before they do the work?
The way we do it, there's the form we use, there's a proposal sheet in the back that has 5 different areas for proposals. So the service tech would write up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many jobs there were. The customer says, okay, I want to do 1, 3, and 4. 2 and 5 I'm going to wait on. That's not really that important to me. I can't afford to do all that now. Fine, they initial the ones they want, and then on the front of the invoice, the service tech writes down the 3 tasks that were accepted with the amounts, and there's a signature that they put down to authorize to do the work. When we're done with the job and the service tech's collecting the money, which is the other big advantage. Remind me to tell them about that. No, then they get the signature that says, the job was completed to our satisfaction, and that's when they get the check, and then you've got both signatures that says, yes, we said to go ahead and do it, and yes, it was finished on time and done to our satisfaction.
Collecting the money.
Collecting the money. That's the biggest change that I saw in the way it helped my business was after the first month, my cash flow problems were turned around. I used to get, some of you business owners will understand what the 4 o'clock sweats are. When you wake up at 4 o'clock and you know payroll's the next day, or the payroll taxes have to be paid, and you're going, oh man, where am I going to get this money? I had the 4 o'clock sweats a lot. After menu pricing, and really Maurice isn't paying